Tagged out Missouri.
I just smoked.
We're excited hunting with passion. It's kicking off in a good year so far.
Woo! 3 for 3, baby. And like, heck, if my wall had all the deer I've ever seen on it, I would need a bigger house because, you're going to have, I've seen a lot of deer, but being able to, and that's, again, back to ground hunting, that's a big point of why I love to hunt off the ground, because of the fact that if I see a deer and I see where that mature buck traveled, especially in the rut, if I see a buck cruise or I see a buck with his nose to the ground, even if he is in open timber, wherever, if I see that buck cruising right there, you need to get to that spot now, because chances are there's going to be another one on, because that's probably a hot doe. If he's on the nose of the ground cruising through this little creek bottom, most likely he's on the trail of a hot doe. So every buck for the last 3 miles of wherever that doe came from that crosses her path is probably going to hit that same trail and follow her into the timber or into the brush, wherever. So, I think, Ted shot a giant, I believe it was in Iowa, doing that a few years back. There's a video on YouTube, on their YouTube, from Hunting Public, where they were in their saddles. He and Jake were in their saddles, saw a buck cruise through about 80 yards away, sitting there. A few minutes later, here come a little buck, same deal, cruising the same trail. And they said, we got to get to that spot. And jumped out of the tree, left everything in the tree, literally ran over there 80 yards, plopped down by a deadfall where they could see that trail. And 50 minutes, I think it was, or an hour later, all of a sudden this giant, or I think it might have been in Missouri, actually, now that I think about it, but giant 140, 150 inch buck comes walking down the same trail, and Ted smokes him at 20 yards, But if he wouldn't have done that, he would have been sitting in his saddle going, well, we seen a giant. In fact, there was a bunch of bucks traveling that route, but it takes more work to tear down your setup, bring it over there. Heck, there's a chance by the time he got up a tree over there and got all set up again, they could have spooked that buck coming through, because they were around trying to get in a tree where they just became hunters and just went over there and killed him. And
that's exactly what I should have did last year. I don't know if you remember, but I was that one morning in November, I saw 4 shooter bucks, and 2 of them being the 2 target ones I was looking at. And they didn't all come at the same time. There was 2, a doe came by and then 2 bucks came by. And I remember texting you dude, I just saw 2 bucks. And you're like, get out of that tree. And I'm like, I can't. They're right there. But if I would have waited a little bit after they left, I could have crawled over there, and then the other 2 would have showed up and I would have had a buck that morning. But that's just something that's one thing that never being on the ground and never hunting like that. I'm like, get on the ground. What do you mean? I'm in a tree stand. They're not going to see me, that type of thing. But if I would have known now, what I, learning, especially all the stuff we learned in Indiana and other stuff that I've learned this past year, I could have just slipped off and then, crawled. I had, I didn't know how long I had, but I would have had at least good 45 minutes to at least get, all I needed was 10 yards. All I needed was 10 yards, and I could have just ducked from tree to tree and gotten 10 yards within bow range, but,
Yeah. Well, and a lot of part, with being on the ground, if your best friend is your binos, glass. So 9 times out of 10, if you can see a good ways and you're being, again, if you're just walking over there, I just got to find a spot, you're not got, and a deer's coming down that same trail, he's probably going to bust you. But if a buck is nose to the ground cruising like that, again, it's all different in the rut. Like, it's all different closer to November. Their brains are a little preoccupied. But if a buck is doing that and you're going, if you're slipping through the woods real quiet, real slow, getting to that spot, there's a chance, even if that buck is on the way already, if you're slipping 4 or 5 yards towards where you're trying to get to, and you're glassing through the timber, you're paying attention, you're on sneak mode, but you're also on stalk mode, even though you don't know that deer is there, but you're acting like there is one there, and you're just going slow, even if it takes you 5 minutes, but you're glassing. You take a couple steps, glass, take a couple steps, glass. Make sure, a lot of times, even if that buck is coming to you, if you're stalking him without knowing that he's there, but you're acting like it, if it takes you 5 minutes to get 20 yards, but he's cruising nose to the ground looking for a doe, a lot of times he's not even, you're going to see him before he sees you, because you're looking for him. He's not looking for you. His mind is off.
Yeah.
Somewhere else.
Off topic.
Yeah. So I have two last questions on the ground hunting thing. One thing that Jeremiah and I were like trying to figure out too last year was, when do you move to a different spot? Like, that's one thing. They were like, okay, how long do we sit here type deal? And then this has been a topic I've noticed the last year or two is, what is your opinion on thermals? Like, I heard the other day, in the morning, the thermals, you should be hunting high, like higher ground. And then I know it's not as much within Missouri, but I know like in the hilly parts where we're hunting in Indiana with the ridges and everything, I heard like in the evening you should be hunting lower spots because they drop or they go up or something like that. I forget what I heard the diagram was, but
so your morning, so your thermals are going to follow. Let me think about that.
The thermals
they're going to
drop
follow
in the morning, and then I think they go up in the evening. I think it's how.
No, your thermals are going to rise. Your thermals are going to rise. So in the evening, like, your thermals will be dropping.
Yeah.
Because it's going down into the cool air.
Yeah.
As the air cools down, it starts to drop because your warm air rises, but cool air drops. So as everything starts warm air rises, cool air drops. So as things start to cool off, your creek bottoms that are shaded are going to pull your thermals down in more so, where in the morning, as the sun's hitting the top of the ridge, it's going to start heating up the air, and the air is going to start pulling up the ridge. So yeah, that's definitely a thing to pay attention to. If your wind is so key, that, it's a big part of everything moving. I guess that would answer that question of, you really have to pay attention to that stuff, because, if you're walking with your thermals pulling up and you're walking up the ridge and your thermals are pulling up, blowing out everything 100 yards ahead of you before you can even see it, you're wasting your time, because you probably won't even hear that deer run off, but you really want to pay attention to that. As far as the question about on the ground, when to move, when not to move, my general deal in the morning and evening, which I'm hunting all day generally in November, which if you're going to Indiana on a hunting trip, you need to be in the woods all day.
That's what we
most
did.
Bucks that I've ever killed in the rut, I would say, outside of the first one that I shot at 8 o'clock in the morning, every other one I've killed middle of the day.
Yeah, that's when we saw our 2 bucks too. It was like lunchtime.
Yeah, that's when your bucks are going to be cruising. So, for me, if I was, say, in your shoes, tackling that piece in the morning, first thing in the morning, if I'm going in the dark, I'm going to want to go in the dark, get somewhere where I can get eyes on stuff, whatever. I don't really go in much during that time of year, early. Um, unless I know that area. But if I'm going into a new area, I'm probably going to wait till it's just cracking daylight, that gray light where I can see a little bit ahead of me,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm just going to still hunt my way through there. Now, if I get to a point, say right after daylight, an hour, in the first hour of daylight, I get to a point and I see these couple ridges. There's a bedding area. It looks like thick bedding over here. It looks like thick bedding here. And there's kind of a pinch point or a funnel point on the map that I want to get to by daylight. I'll sit there for a couple hours. If it's cold, I like to let the frost melt off. And then as soon as that frost starts melting off, I'm moving, because then I can be quiet again. Ideally, if there's wind, everything is this topic, such a broad, there's so many little details. Like, okay, if I'm sitting there and I'm on that property and I look at the wind, and the wind for the day is going to be 3 miles an hour, and there's going to be absolutely no wind. It's dry. The leaves are crunchy. It is loud as heck trying to sneak through the woods, especially if you're hunting together. Two guys trying to get in the woods is tough. Then realistically, you may only have an hour when that frost melts off, that the leaves will get a little bit damp, that you can move quietly and effectively. So that's the time you're going to want to move. And there's days where, truthfully, like if you're sitting there and it is dead quiet and there's no wind, find you a pinch point on the map, get there, tuck in, take some snacks, and hope that one cruises through, because you're not probably going to sneak up on something, in the. But if you have days where it's super windy, like I love a freaking windy day, because that's all year round. I mean, that was late season last year when we crawled in on those does.
Yeah.
It was because, we crawled into 60 yards on 8 or 9 bedded does. Never had a clue we were there, because we were able to sneak around, make as much noise as we needed to in the leaves, and they never hurt us. But, on those days where you get some good wind, get to a point where you can, I'd say first thing in the morning, find a spot on the map where that thicket is, or where there's a bedding area or whatever. Sit there for the first 2 hours of daylight. Just tuck in quiet, sit there. Again, see where you can see. If you start seeing bucks cruising, a buck cruise through on a buck trail, checking with his nose to the ground, get to that spot. Set up where he's not, anything coming that way is not going to wind you. Set up there for a couple hours. Nothing happens. Start covering ground. Start slipping along. And when I say cover ground, I don't mean like walk around like a herd of cattle. I mean like be on your toes, be sneaking, sneak along. You get to a point where, there's a bunch of fresh scrapes right here and a bunch of buck sign and whatever, this, that, the other. Okay, you might hang out at that spot for a little bit and glass. Or if you get to a ridge that you can see a big open creek bottom down there, or like a brushy creek bottom, sit up there and pick that sucker apart for an hour with your binos and just watch and see if something's cruising. Just kind of keep moving, because everybody says, like the deer weren't moving. A lot of times there's always deer moving during the rut.
You just weren't where they were at.
Where they were. So sometimes you got to go find them.
Gotcha. So that really answers my question a lot. Like you're more like you're doing some setting, but you're also doing a lot of moving and checking spots and that type of thing. How long would you say that you sit at a spot the most? Like 1 or 2 hours maybe, or?
All depends on what I'm seeing, what the conditions are.
Yeah.
If crappy conditions, I mean, last year in the rut, when we were in Indiana, there was 2 or 3 days where it was just absolutely dead still, dead quiet. You couldn't move to save your life without spooking deer. And so we just found this creek bottom that we knew historically and just made sense. It's a pinch point where three ridges come together, and there's a creek bottom where there's a ton of activity. Doe's bed near there, and usually there's bucks.
Mhm.
We just hung out right there for probably 2 hours, 3 hours. Heck, the one day we sat in the same spot all day. We just hung out. And we're like, eventually one's going to cruise through. And 2 or 3 did. None of them were shooters, but several bucks cruised through that creek bottom that day. And I could have killed all of them, but they just weren't what I was looking for.
Yeah. Jeremiah, do you have any questions?
Gotcha. I don't think so. I mean,
Okay.
you got to watch the wind. I know more so when you're sitting on the ground and the thermals, and so we kind of talked about that. So that was kind of a question I had. But I think about like when it's you hunt on the ground, like duck hunting. I don't know how many times you set up your decoys, you do all that, you've done the scouting, you've done all that work, you set it up, and you're 50 yards off the X, and the ducks are landing, just at a shotgun range or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
or 200 yards away, and you think they need to be right here. They're going to be right here, and all day you're watching those ducks land on 200 yards away, and you're like, you
Mm-hmm.
know what? I'm going to move over there. And you set up, well, then the morning flight's over, and you missed them all, and now they're doing something else.
Yep.
So in the back, when you were talking about seeing those bucks cruise get to that spot,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a mind game of thinking like, well, I set up here. I've got all my crap right here. I've got
Yep.
all my in right here. But if you would move, you'd have shot a lemon of ducks in 10 minutes. But you sat
10
there
minutes.
all day,
Yeah.
and
You
there's a
might
duck.
spook
There's a
one
duck.
duck. You might spook that one duck that's flying in. You might spook that one deer that was over there that while you were getting there, but then throughout the day, there's more coming through. That's a big thing. This is also a little tip that I will tell you, on hunting on the ground and hunting that style of being mobile and really like still hunting your way through the woods. Do not take crap with you. There's a reason why I hunt. I mean, I will go for an all-day sit, and there's a reason I wear hunting old military pants with those big cargo pockets, because I will literally have 2 protein bars, a bottle of water, a battery external charger with a phone cord because my phone dies all the time, and that's it. Other than that, I've got a pair of binos, a rangefinder, and my bow, a water bottle, and 2 protein bars, and a knife, and that's it. Because again, in those moments, having to be like, okay, we need to move. Oh well, hang on, let me get my chair and my backpack. Where's my backpack? Oh well, I set my backpack over there, and now my quiver's over there, and now this crap. Like, I used to wear a backpack when I hunted on the ground, and I'd carry all my stuff. And now I think I have just simplified it down so much to where I'm like, these are the only thing. What do I need to stay out here all day if I have to?
Yep.
And I'm just going to take the bare necessities of what I need. I need a bow, I need a release, I need an arrow, and I probably will prefer to have a protein bar and a bottle of water, just because if I'm starving and I'm thirsty, I'm probably not going to want to sit out here as long. So I probably should take something like that just to have. But other than that, that's it. I don't take a backpack. I don't take a fanny pack. I don't take nothing. I've got binos, bow, and what I'm wearing, and that's it.
Yeah.
Traveling light and well balanced.
That's one of the questions I was going to ask you. I was like, do you even like bring anything to eat or anything with you?
I go to Sam's Club and I buy cases of Quest protein bars, and I have 1 or 2 of them in my pocket, and that's about it.
There you go. I was mentioning to Jeremiah, maybe I had thought about.
Go
ahead, Jeremiah.
No, I kill most of my turkeys when I decide, like, I'm just going to go in there with a gun and a call. I'm going to kill a stupid thing. I'm going to leave everything behind. I tried the decoys. I tried this, tried that. I mean, then you got to pick up all your stuff for turkey hunting. And most of the time, I'll kill a turkey when I decide I'm just going to kill him. I'll literally just have camo, a mouth call, and my shotgun with 3 rounds in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to come out with the turkey that day.
Mm-hmm.
But I spent a
Simplicity.
week on him with my gear, and I've not got him. It's the mindset of it. But
Mm-hmm.
when you're packing that, so
Now,
I
how do
think
you?
one of the biggest to hunting that style, hunting on the ground, whatever you want to call it, and it's something that I've really, I guess you could call it primal, but like if I didn't know anything about hunting and I was just going to go kill one, and somebody gave me a bow and said, go kill one. I look back at the Native Americans became, that were the greatest hunters of all time. That was what they did to live. They
mhm.
never read a freaking book, or they never listened to a podcast, or
Yeah.
they never watched a YouTube video. What they did was they went out there with the mindset of, I have to go kill this. And they just went and did it. And if it meant crawling on their belly for 200
Mhm.
yards through a briar thicket, they did it. If they had to sit in a cramped position for 5 hours to kill that deer, they did it. If they had to sneak along and try to see that deer before it saw them, they did it. And that's how they were successful. And I think so many times, we get put in a box of, oh, well, by golly, I spent $300 on this tree stand or this saddle setup, or I spent $1,000 on this. I'm going to kill one out of this saddle. Who cares, man? Go kill something. Like,
Yeah.
don't overcomplicate it. Okay, what are keys that I need to know to kill this deer? I can't let him see me. I can't let him smell me, and I can't let him hear me. Go kill him.
Yeah.
Put that on a
You
shirt,
know,
Tim.
if
That
he don't
sounds simple.
if he don't see you and if he don't hear you, he ain't running from you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's dumb. It sounds dumb to say it that way, but when you break it down to literally like, if the wind's in my face, I'm not moving when he's looking, and I'm being quiet. It
Yeah.
don't get much simpler than that.
Yeah.
And it sounds silly. Like, I can give you
Yeah.
every book, but like,
Now, what do
that's
you
just a
do?
No, you're telling it right.
What do you do camera situation wise? Like, I know normally you have like, Boomer or
Mhm.
what's his face with you, but like back in the old days when it was just you, how did you make that work? I mean,
Filming off the ground without a camera guy is very hard.
yeah,
Like, it's really hard to do. Have done it. In that case, generally will. I'm not going to be able to stalk something more so. I'm going to be stationary, set up on the ground.
yeah,
I'm going to get to that point where I know I've seen in the past, I've seen bucks cruising here. Which, truthfully, if you're going to the same spot you
Mhm.
hunted last year and you saw bucks cruising a certain area in the middle of the day, that's where I would start this fall.
yeah. That's exactly where I
Historical
put my trail cameras.
historical buck trap.
Yeah.
And dude, honestly, but that's where trail cameras are BS.
Yeah,
Because you may not, I mean, well, I guess you might get a picture of that deer right before you get.
Right. But if you didn't,
But if you didn't
yeah.
get any pictures of a buck on that camera all year, and then you're like, well, what the heck? My camera
yeah,
finally died of batteries, but I got the last pictures were like October 15th.
right.
So, man, there must not be any bucks around there.
Yeah, I mean, based
Those
off of
bucks are
seeing,
only going to travel that area during, a lot of times they're going to travel those areas during the rut, but they may not use that area very much the rest of
right.
the year. So don't be afraid of if you
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
get
yeah.
bucks.
I try not to let my camera. I've tried to get into the mode of where it's like more for inventory
Yeah.
purposes than making me decision on where I'm gonna hunt. Like, I mean, I have like, especially during early season, as they've helped me a lot on deciding where to hunt because like, okay, they seem to be coming here in the morning and here in the evening, that type of thing. But like you said, during the rut, all that goes out the window because they do whatever they want, they chase whatever they want.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was talking to
Mm-hmm.
Jeremiah. I was telling him, I was like, with bringing camera gear and stuff like that. I'm thinking about actually bringing my turkey vest and hunting on the ground with that because it has so many pockets. Plus, if I want to plop on the ground, I have my seat right there. It's got a little water bottle holder.
Mhm.
And heck, I found out I can even put my video camera in one of the pockets because it's a little handy cam. So I'm gonna try that and see if that helps too. Because last year, like you said, like I had a backpack. I think you had a backpack, Jeremiah.
Yeah,
Um,
I had a backpack.
and it was kind of hard because like it was cold in the morning and then it would warm up. So I had bibs to start out with, and I took them off. And
Mhm.
it's I guess you just get used to like you got to know before you go out the temperature and stuff like what you're gonna go against. And
Layer,
yeah,
a lot of layers.
I
I
mean,
don't
heck, you
ever
get
wear some. I'm planning to be mobile. I never, ever, ever wear like something big and bulky. Like I generally wear like that's why you'll see me wear like a hoodie and a flannel
mhm.
and base layers, or you'll see me wear. I pretty much wear the same pants no matter what. It's just whether I have like sweats or base layer or whatever under them.
Yeah,
But yeah, definitely it's warmed up. It's been 30 degrees in the morning, so you got to have a base layer, and then all of a sudden it warms up, and sometimes you got to strip your base layer off and ball them up in your pocket. But you know,
yeah,
again, simplicity is key, I think, in all that. And as far as filming, if you've got two guys,
yeah.
you
You
know,
just flip a coin, see who wants
filming
the
it.
deer.
Well, yeah, I mean, or just say, hey, like today I'm gonna film you. Tomorrow you're gonna film me, regardless of kill shot. I mean, that's what Shay and Jared did for years. They would just alternate,
Yeah,
days. One day they'd film,
Hmm.
and one day they would film. One, Shay would film, or whatever. They'd go back and forth, and that's filming on the ground is it can be tough on your own. You're definitely not able to be as mobile if you're trying to, because generally you got to have a tripod or something. So,
yeah.
trying to be quiet and stealthy with a tripod and a bow in your hands, it can be tough.
Right, right.
But if you guys are going to have two people, then that's going to help you out a bunch.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I had even like played different scenarios in my mind. I'm like, well, if he comes from this side, you just switch cameras and the one guy gets his bow or, whatever.
Mm.
So but yeah, that's all I got. Jeremiah, you got anything else you wanna end on or
No, I think I'm pretty satisfied. No,
okay.
you helped me out a little bit, Tim, on some different situations and give me some cud to chew on.
Yeah, there is so much I could probably answer questions and talk about it. And I'm by no means a professional ground hunter. I screw up more times than I have been successful. Um, and I've been successful quite a bit, but if I started going through the stories of the times that I blew it, we'd be here for 3 hours. Well, actually, probably more than that. But you know, keep it simple. Keep moving. Move to the movement. That's the best rut advice I can give anyone when going on a trip. Move till you see movement. Move to the movement. That's the best advice I've ever heard from a guy, and that was years ago. Told me in the rut, man, you got to move to the movement. And if you're not seeing movement, keep moving. And again, be a hunter. Use your instincts, all those things, and keep it
Hmm.
simple. And just go have fun with it. You're gonna mess up. There's a good chance you may not even kill one. But there's also a real good chance the first morning you could be slipping along and boom, one runs smack into you, and you have the craziest best hunt of your life
Yeah.
right there.
Hmm.
you know. And the best part about hunting on the ground when you're moving around is you're not sitting in the dang saddle or in a tree stand for 12 hours a day. You're at least getting to see different dirt under your shoes. So
That's
that's
true.
always the plan. I
Yeah, for
guarantee you,
sure.
you start moving and you start if you start moving through the timber, through the woods, covering ground, glassing, being smart with your movements, not skylining, just walking over a ridge to glass down in, creep up and glass over, all those things, you're going to see 5 times the amount of bucks that you will ever see sitting on one spot on a place where you have no idea where you're at, on a new piece. You're going to have way more encounters. Now, some of those might be deer running away from you, but you're going to have way more encounters on the ground moving. And eventually, just by the sheer odds of it, eventually one of those times it's going to pay off. That is for sure.
Just gotta be there. But yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Tim, thanks for taking the time tonight, man.
I've heard somebody.
Go ahead, Jeremiah. Sorry.
No, I've heard people say if you don't mess up, you're not doing nothing.
Exactly.
And so there's a lot of truth to that. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Exactly.
Well, Tim, thanks for popping on tonight.
Guys. Appreciate you.
I hope you have a good season and good luck traveling this fall and stay safe and hope you get some good success and have a good time with the whitetail adrenaline guys. I'm a little jealous, but hope you guys have fun.
We'll have a good time. We'll have a good time. That's the best part too, guys, is don't take it too serious.
Yeah, that's one thing. Jared texted me after the podcast. He's like, "Hey, don't take it too seriously. Have fun with it. Hunting's not all about just killing the animal. It's about learning and having fun with your buddies and stuff like that." So,
I guarantee you, if you guys go to Indiana and you hunt like you're saying you want to hunt, and you're doing it, you're gonna and you go into it with the attitude of just having fun and just enjoying the process of learning. You could mess up everything. You could do everything wrong the entire time, and you're just laughing about it. Well, that was dumb. That one busted us. Oh shoot, that sucked. Oh well, and you go and you keep having fun, but you're learning as you're messing.
Yeah.
And that stuff that you can't learn it from me. You can't learn it from Jared Scheffler. You can't learn it from Tanner DeShong. You can't learn it from Jim Shockey. You can't learn that stuff from anyone. But the next time you go to Indiana, you're going to think, hey, dude, remember that time when we screwed up on that big buck? I'm going to know that for next time.
Yep.
And the amount of failures that you will have is immeasurable. But if you take all of it with a grain of salt, it's all part of the story. Maybe I'm not meant to kill one this year, but what I learned by screwing up on this one is going to help me kill one next year or the next year or whatever.
Yep.
And
next year,
letting go of it and saying, I'm going to go have fun with it. I'm not going to take it too seriously. And I'm just going to go out there and have a good time with one of my buddies and learn everything that I can on this adventure. That's where you're going to win.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can think of a lot of stories that just came to my mind. Jeremiah yelling at me, shoot it, as I try to look through my scope and realize, hey, I left my scope zoomed all the way in instead of pulled it back out and couldn't find the dang deer. That's something that, you laugh at it now. It wasn't.
If you get down a tighter spot, you're going to remember to dial that back.
That's right. Yeah. Well, we're going with the bow this year.
I'm going to remind him to dial it back.
Well, I'll have the bow this year, so I'm hoping to get that. Which I like the option of Indiana with the bow. You can have a buck or a doe tag. So I feel like our odds they increase with that too, because you have that option of walking away with just a doe if you have to, like on the last day or whatever. So.
I guarantee you, dude, you shoot a doe off the ground, it'll amp
100%. 100%.
Shooting anything off the ground, dude, I will tell you, be careful, because first one you shoot off the ground, you will be hooked for life, because it's a whole nother level. It's a whole nother level.
Yeah, I was talking to Boomer the other day, and he's like, I'm never getting in a saddle ever again. Hunting the ground's the way to go. And I was like, yeah, I haven't been sold on that yet, but maybe this year. So we'll see. But
yeah.
Anyway, Tim, but thanks for your time tonight, and we'll holler at you later. And thanks.
Yeah, sounds good, guys. Good luck.
You too, buddy.